Hey guys, here I am again with the 13-part Black Squad criminal organization. In the last part, we wanted to take part in that well-known scam at the radio station. We had arranged for Jacqueline, the call came, but she didn't pick up, of course, because she was taking a bath. Who wouldn't expect that? We were definitely really pissed at her, but the contact didn't matter anymore, she was out. Now, in any case, it was time to set up the meeting again, this time with the interns. We also needed to understand how everything functioned. What role can we play? What role do we want to play? And that's when the little twist was supposed to happen in this story. So I called Daniel. I said, we need to meet right away and we need to meet with the interns because the situation was like this. He had built up debts. He had a drug problem. He had bought cocaine through some of our contacts, had accumulated debts, used too much himself, and so on. And then he came to us with this idea. All right, so we went there, went into the apartment, and we had agreed beforehand. Okay, Philip, you have to play the bad boy here, and Daniel will act like he's his buddy, and so on. And remember, don't mess with them. Remember, he's the president of this black gang now, and so on. Then you act accordingly. So we went into his place, and then he said at first, yeah, about the call, yeah, everything worked out, and so on. Why didn't she pick up, and so on. And we were like, yeah, no idea. It just didn't work out. Kid's sick and so on. You don't really admit that either. You don't just sit her down and say, yeah, we picked the last girl. She's just dumb and that's why it didn't work out. In any case, the twist was now for us. And I also have a little something from the newspaper here about that. We always believed, Daniel, Mike and I, we always believed that this intern was doing it without anyone at the station knowing. And now he revealed it to us in this conversation. In the apartment, he told us he wasn't sure if he could do it again as there were two completely different people involved now and he was out of it. I asked him how many more people were supposed to be involved. And even if you're involved now, I'd only be involved a little and I wouldn't have to pass it on. I said, I don't care if it's all drug debts. I don't care where the money's from. You built up drug debts. Where's the money? Where's the damn money? Yeah. And I didn't care if he borrowed it from his grandma or his parents. That's just how it was back then. That's also something you shouldn't forget. If you're active in the drug trade, dealer, user, somewhere in between playing any role, when it comes to money, every friendship ends. And that's especially harsh in the drug trade. It's not always like, yeah, tomorrow, and the debts just keep piling up and so on. That's why stay away, keep your hands off the devil stuff, cocaine and all that crap. You're flushing your life down the drain. In no time, down the toilet, and then he said, yeah, there are two other people involved, and he's just the smallest cog in the machine. I said, why are you doing this in the first place and telling us that the debts will be paid back and so on, and then it doesn't work out? He said, yeah, I only ever get a small cut of it, and that was his way of looking for an excuse so we'd leave him alone. Money's coming tomorrow, money's coming the day after tomorrow, no problem. Look, here I'm getting 10,000 euros and so on. Yeah, true to the motto in the drug trade, everything worked out, only the money is missing. Yeah, exactly, the most important thing. And then he said to us, no, there are two other people at the station involved and they've snatched up this project and he hardly has any chance anymore. I don't give a damn, you're involved in this too. Okay, we don't care. We don't have to be part of this radio thing. You get the money, how you do it, I don't give a damn. If you do it through the radio station, but we're out, it's none of our business anymore. We don't care about any of it. And there you can see old reports. For example, here it says from the Nordkurier, a newspaper in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, Eri is mentioned. I've already done 2 interviews about it. Fraud and money laundering. Former host has to go to jail starting Friday. The former Ostsee radio host was convicted a year ago. Only now does he have to go behind bars. He fought against it until the very end. Marcus J. must report to the gate of the Rostock Viaduct Correctional Facility by Friday. The grace period for the former Ostseewell radio host to start his sentence has expired, Rostock prosecutor Wichmann confirmed, responding to a Bilzen report. Marcus J. received a 5-year sentence in April 2016 for fraud and fraudulent bankruptcy. He and an acquaintance manipulated Ostseewell contests, and the Rostock Regional Court proved 9 cases against them. The duo pocketed over 61,000 euros themselves. Marcus J. had also already been convicted of child abuse. Marcus J. had recently fought to avoid having to go to prison. His appeal at the Federal Court of Justice failed in late May, making the Rostock Regional Court's verdict legally binding. That's why he was summoned to begin his prison sentence at the correctional facility on July 10th. In November 2012, Marcus J. had already been sentenced to 3 years and 2 months in prison for multiple counts of child sexual abuse. He is alleged to have sexually abused his 12-year-old neighbor's daughter between 2006 and 2008. Not alleged to have, but did abuse. There is a final court verdict. Personally, I never had any contact with Marcus J. or his buddy, and we didn't care about that either because we wanted to stay out of how he got it, since he said, yeah, you could talk to them sometime. I said, bro, you're enough already. You don't do something like that where in the end we're left with 1,500 euros or 3,000 euros or 5,000 euros. I'm not meeting with 5 people. I don't care how you organize the money. Yeah, and then he said, yeah, well, they're going to keep doing it. I think he was just a henchman or something. I don't know how that went in this process. I don't know that. We never had any contact there. Of course, that was a big disappointment because we thought, okay, now we're going to present 10, 12 winners, collect the 120,000 euros and give 40,000 to others. It was kind of obvious the story was too good, that some intern was manipulating everything. He didn't really seem like the brightest bulb in the box. It was clear he was just some assistant and that there were people working in the background. We also pulled back, deciding against approaching them with blackmail tactics and such. We didn't know that yet. It wasn't clear yet about the sexual abuse. Yeah, I thought if you go after a radio host and try to blackmail him and so on, it was clear to me that the state police would show up faster than I could say potato gratin. And it was such an open secret about Marcus' job that he had delayed a private bankruptcy of almost 500,000, but somehow he still lived in a villa and had himself photographed with a Ferrari. He had the fees from the radio station billed through his girlfriends. The friends pocketed the money and he was officially employed on a very small basis by his girlfriend. You really have to look at who played what role there, how they helped with the bankruptcy delay and so on. He was convicted for that as well, so that's already a pretty serious case. And I have to say, when it comes to sexual abuse, I'm out. He actually got off pretty lightly with the prison time, I have to be honest. And for us, it was about, we wanted our drug money. And this is just a little side note about the debts he built up. 5 or 10,000 quickly turns into more. Every week another grand gets added. Out of 10,000, by Sunday it's 11,000, 12,000, 13,000, 14,000. That's how the weeks go by and you just can't get out of it. You could deliver pizzas for some pizza delivery service until you're blue in the face, but if you're paying 4,000 in interest every month, it won't help you. That has nothing to do with it, whether you borrow money and rack up gambling debts, drug debts, or whatever, and you borrow from shady guys. The normal interest rate doesn't apply there, which right now for cash loans is between 2 and 4% or whatever. That's not applied there. And then ignore interest rates. People borrow money or go into debt, then you meet with them and say, look, you have nothing. Pay it back, it's not a problem. Let's just do it next month. Let's not do 10, let's do 12. Then they look at you with big eyes and say, what do you mean 12? Yeah, 12 grand, not 12 euros on top. Yeah, but what, man? That's why if you get involved in this game, it is, and it's the same everywhere. I knew people back then who only did it as a business. lending money as a business. For promoters, for drug addicts, for cars, you name it. Various people, including semi-criminals, made more money from the interest than anything else. They were even glad when people couldn't pay the money back on time. So sometimes things were even manipulated so that they couldn't possibly pay it back in order to keep them tied up longer and take advantage of them, especially in the area of nightclubs, events, and so on. People were supposed to be kept tied up for as long as possible so that they could keep getting cashed out again and again. Okay. We pulled back for now and said, screw it. Look, just figure it out somehow. However you do it at your station, we don't care. We're out. So Daniel and I, somehow we went to get something to eat. What a surprise, Exhibit A. We went to eat and said, look, we need to pay a bit of attention now to how they're involved in this. You'd need to take care of that a bit. Make sure he lets us know if any money changes hands. I don't want to approach the others myself. Like I said, I can't go to those two that Marcus J is involved, the radio host. I never would have thought that. Because he was employed there for something else. I don't know how much a radio host makes, but definitely more than everyone here and me and everyone watching this. He definitely earns very, very well. But where I thought they're taking action, they're doing things. He wouldn't just quit his job to pocket 61,000 euros here and then split it with his buddy Andre or whoever. Each of them gets 30,000, which didn't seem right to me, but whatever. But you have to stay on it now and see when he gets any money, because he told us in a previous conversation that hardly anyone there actually won anything legitimately. That happened again and again, or the odds were like 50-50 and so on. And then we said, okay, so we decided, look, if the odds he mentioned are that half the people win legitimately and the other half, those were already the manipulated games from the broadcaster. So I thought, yeah, okay, then we'd have to calculate it like this. Look, with every second win, we'd show up at his place and we'd want his share. The 3,000 or 4,000. If we pull out now, then we pocket that, get it from him, and then we're out. Or he gets it through drug dealing, we don't care, but we have to pay attention in case something comes up on the radio. Okay, we'll keep an eye on it. You just have to go to the website and check when and how someone won something. And that's exactly what we did. That worked, and then there were some prizes. I called Daniel, I say, bro, what's up with the Rackets? Yeah, he's not picking up the phone. He's not reachable. I was at his place and rang the bell 3 times, but he's unreachable. It's that easy. Before everything was settled with a handshake, yeah, if I'm involved, then of course I'll pay. I want to pay back my debts. I don't want any trouble. Yeah. And then something happens that a lot of people believe, and that's also what I want to share. Many criminals think they can evade detection by becoming invisible, changing phones, moving in with a partner, or relocating to an unknown part of the city. That doesn't work. Especially when it comes to money, or if you've caused someone to lose face, criminals don't forget that. They come after you for money, even if it's just 500 euros. It's not about the amount anymore, but the fact that you tried to cheat me, and I have to set that straight. People can't go around saying that I didn't follow through. No longer reachable. I said, what do you mean no longer reachable? I said, shit, we're coming over. I said, we have to confront that guy now. Quick note, to support us, here's how. My book is out, Hate Breeds Violence Games bestseller. The brand behind the product, King of the Kongs. Check it out. There are a lot of links under the video where you can support us in our work. De-radicalization, anti-violence work on the internet and or at schools. So there are a lot of possibilities. Thumbs up, thumbs down, leave a comment, all of that helps. Thank you very much, and ahoy, the video continues. We drove there, looked for him, and as it is, Rostock, I don't know, by now maybe 300,000 inhabitants or something like that, 300,000 inhabitants, I have no idea. It's not like you can just disappear there. If you know a few people, you'll find who you're looking for. So first, we went to his place and sat in the car, kind of like private detectives sitting there in the car. Damn, but back then, I didn't have much patience. That's something I learned in prison. You sit there for 2 hours in front of the place and I say, man, he's not coming. I'm not going to just sit in front of his place. People are making calls and so on. And then the guy we're looking for gets tipped off. damn, they're looking for you and so on, and I can't give anything away. So what did we do? I said, no, listen, we have to approach some of his buddies now. I said, he doesn't want it any other way, so we have to go to his buddies to see where he's hanging out. All right, we got 2 or 3 names, and it didn't take long for us to find out where these buddies lived. Then we drove around the area looking for these buddies. And then you call them, and that's really how it is. I recall Daniel calling someone, introducing himself, and the person on the other end not recognizing who he was. And he said, yeah, I wanted to give you back your 100 euros debt from that time. You remember where we were, 100 euros? And the guy just heard that and said, yeah, I still have to get 100 euros from you. Yeah, because things went wrong back then and so on. I wanted to give you something back. And he was like, yeah, of course, let's meet. And then he was really clever and probably a bit skeptical, but he was also too curious and chose a meeting spot. I don't know what the street in Oslo is called, maybe Long Street or something anyway, a very public street. And he picked that as the meeting place. So we drove there, and then he was standing there. Daniel got out and walked up to him. Daniel was already known. He was a pretty big guy, muscular, and he walked up to him. The other guy was already scared, but he had his dog with him. Daniel went up to him and said, listen, man, and pushed him to the side for a moment, just like that. There was this savings bank and a staircase going down, and he kept pushing him to the side there. I got out of the car too and went over as well. We both acted as bad cops with no good cop left. Listen, put the 100 back in your pocket. He's not giving it to you, man. So listen, we're looking for this guy. We're looking for the intern. Where is he? I don't know. Bam, boom. Where is he? No idea. All right, come on. Start sharing some ideas about where he could be. Yeah, maybe over there with so-and-so. That's where they hang out and sometimes get intoxicated. And then it's like, listen, okay, look, get lost. If you call him now and warn him, then we'll come looking for you again. That's classic intimidation, and you can't forget these are all criminals. Criminals often pressure and threaten each other, especially over drug-related matters, as they cannot go to the police for help. Even when reporting a threat, it's usually connected to drugs in some way. Or I got slapped and so on. They don't do anything because they might get dragged into something, get their house searched, and then all kinds of things are found there. So it's always very complicated. Anyway, okay, he gave us this and that address. We drove there. We rang the bell, said something like DHL or whatever, and people just opened the door, just opened the door upstairs, looking all weird with huge eyes, sitting there, pupils totally dilated and so on. And he says, what about the money? What about the money? We let it run. We already pulled out of that damn scam, didn't take part in it. Then it doesn't matter. Where's the money? And then he says, well, Marcus and the other guy said my debts are none of your business, and they're not passing on the share anymore, so they're not giving me my share anymore. Why is that? Yeah, what do you mean they're not giving it to you anymore? We don't care. It's not just about this thing. How should I put it? If you make these debts, consume and so on, and then come afterwards with some whiny story like, well, you know, my dog got sick and the hamster is stuck in the microwave. Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares. The personal stuff, suffering, you can go and whine to the bank again and get a 3-month deferral on your loan payments because you were sick or something. If a bank goes along with that, that's all well and good, but that's not how it works in criminal circles. And he says, yeah, they don't want to give me my share anymore. And they say, screw you and screw everyone else and so on. That's how it was conveyed to us. And then we said, listen, man, there are so many games piled up here that you guys have made. By now, I don't know, you should have made like 15 grand somehow. Or whatever, just give us the 15 grand. Yeah, I'll try again, get the money and talk to all of them. And maybe they'll help me too, otherwise I'll expose them. Then they'll all want to blackmail each other and so on. Great story. Keep it short or write it down. Down. Nobody cares, nobody cares. Get the money, man. Doesn't matter. Now you have a week. Get the money from them. Whoever keeps pocketing it. I don't give a damn. And if you have to prostitute yourself, I don't give a damn. And then there was a bit more. Then there was, to really put some pressure on it, physical violence was used too, just to add some pressure. We drove away. You can't make this up. We drove away. And at some point, I got a call, and friends from the Helsinki News called me. They called from Rostock and said, Philip, please come to Rostock. It's important. It's important for you. And such a warning from a club we were friends with back then meant, okay, we know what the cops can be like, but it could also be someone else. We know what. Yeah, but it already sounded like we needed to talk about it. I took someone with me back then, Carlos, I think it was Carlos or Klaus, now it's Carlos. I took Carlos with me. I drove to Rostock with Carlos, picked up Daniel, and we went to their clubhouse. First, we greeted everyone. We were very, very friendly. And then they said, listen, some people approached us who want to give us 10,000 euros if we stop you from collecting money for the drug trade. I was like, who is it? Who came? And so on. A few names were mentioned where I thought, okay, first they tell us they have no money. They supposedly didn't get anything from the manipulation and nobody has anything. And then they really went to someone from the Red White Danger and offered them, okay, here's 10,000 euros if you stop Daniel here. And the guy from the Black Squad says they should get the hell out of Rostock. It's none of their business. There's 10,000 euros like club money. You might think that this conversation went like they came to us with this request and, you know, I'm here on this channel for real talk. That's not how it happened. At that time, we were very, very friendly and they said, look, we'll stay out of it. Screw the 10,000 euros. This thing is yours. Those are drug debts they owe you. We're not going to risk our friendship for that. It's not worth it to us. But I think you should know that they came to us with this proposal. I was like, all right, we thanked them and said, it's good to know that they have that kind of attitude. They wanted to see conflict between the clubs, maybe even start a war, fights, all kinds of things. And that they had the money. They said they could pay the money. They could pay the debts right away. I was out. I can tell you that really pisses you off. Hashtag I know that feeling when you hear something like that, when you're being taken for a fool and someone wants to drag you into something like, hey, sort this out for me with that whole attitude of learning. Do you know who I am? No, man, if I've never even heard your name, then you're not important. Yeah, and that just makes you even angrier. At that point, I lost control and said, it's not bad cop anymore, it's bad Philip. Yeah, now it's for real. Now we're going all the way. Now we really have to hunt him down, that intern. And then we set off. And of course, we searched again, went back into that pusher apartment or wherever they hang out. But of course, they weren't there. Doesn't matter. I said, okay, for this stunt, they're really going to pay. I said, now this has nothing to do with interest anymore. The interest would have been around 14,000, 15,000 or so. I said, let's double the debt from the original 10. If we catch him now, we'll make it 25. Always, of course, hoping that you'll get it. You don't think you'll get it, but you have to do a mix of, okay, but there has to be interest on top and a ton more and all sorts of things. It's a dirty thing. Drugs are just dirty. We set off and picked up a gun in Rostock. And that's for people like that, for those who deal drugs like that, like, yeah, I buy something, I sell something, I use something, and I don't care. And then maybe I get slapped or something like that. They can live with that. Some even get used to it. They think it never goes a step further. And that's when we thought, okay, we need to reinforce that opinion a bit. If they didn't take us seriously before, a slap in the face isn't enough for them. It has to hit a bit differently. And then we got a gun. And just like we're talking about it here, we got a gun and so on, completely ignoring any police structures and so on. And who they're investigatively involved, could be involved with drug dealing, with fraud, with the slaps, with collecting these debts and so on. He couldn't just go to the cops and say, hey, this and that is happening here and I need help and I'm being hunted and so on. No. got a gun, and no kidding, guys, this is real, it's not made up. We're driving, we're heading out by car. We drove through Rostock. We left less than 12 minutes and 17 seconds ago. That's when we saw the guy. We see the guy right in the middle of the street or on the sidewalk. We see the guy out of the car. He's in shock. You know, there are only 3 ways to react in that situation: fight, flight, or freeze. And he's really frozen. The 3 of us got out, Daniel with the gun tucked in the front of his waistband. We went up to him, really pushed him to the side somewhere and said, "Dude, are you out of your mind, man?" Gun, you know, first just held it against him somewhere and said, "Dude, are you messing with us, man?" Which one of you? Who was it? Who here said that they should push us out and so on, and for 10,000 euros you want to buy against us and buy your way out and so on? Who was all that? And then comes stammering and whining, and not me and the others and those up there. I had no contact with those 2 from the radio station. It doesn't matter. You are a contact person, dude. Talk to them. And I say, we're going after them now, all of them, because they've all crossed the line by saying they want to push us out of the money behind our backs. They went to our friends, asked for help. They're all involved. They're all going to be, now they're all liable for your drug debts. We don't give a damn where the money comes from. And you know what? You can tell all of them, if the money doesn't come, we're getting 25,000 euros now, and it's due. It's due within a week. Otherwise, everyone will be hunted down. And that was conveyed to them with a certain urgency, yes, so they would know, okay, this is no joke. And he went in, they left him standing there, and this time it was clear, okay, there are several options now. Shit, 25,000 euros or they'll really come and shoot me. That wasn't up for debate, I'll be honest. For something like that, I didn't have much brain left. I had 0 empathy left. That's what this life does to you. So don't even choose this shit in the first place. But of course, I wouldn't have gone and shot or wounded the guy for the original 10,000 he owed. A beating would have been enough, to be honest. There would have been a serious beating, but the person in front of you doesn't know what you're willing to do. Yeah, and you have to keep up that tough image, that hard image, like you'll go all the way. But now it was clear, okay, we used the gun, and that was an action where we didn't know, okay, now he's really scared for his life. If he goes now, who knows? If he doesn't get the money, then the only thing left for him is to go to the cops. And of course, that was something where we said, damn, we have to watch out, big risk, big risk. But we want those 25,000 euros. Just go for it. That's how it is. It's not just like that in crime, but it was supposed to happen that we would have more meetings and there was supposed to be a very special handover. And what happened during that handover, how it went, and who managed to wriggle out of it or not, you know what, guys? I'll tell you about that next time. And as always, I remain with an ahoy from the coast.